Call the Southfield Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors to order Wednesday, January 15th at 7 p.m. The first item on the agenda is executive session to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation that is otherwise demonstrably likely, or an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, 2 with SRA versus L-Star Southfield LLC, and to reconvene in open session. This is a roll call vote. Start with Kevin.
Yes.
Well, do we have a motion? I'm sorry,
Motion.
motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, yes. We'll be in executive session, folks. Probably need about 20 minutes. We just have some minutes to get through, and then we'll get to the, what everybody's here for. So, for the, first is the Wednesday, September 18th. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That's unanimous. Next, we have the minutes of November 6th, 2019. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain, and Bob abstaining, so, 1, 2, 5 in favor, and 6 in favor, 2 abstain. Next, we have the meeting minutes of November 20th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And I'll abstain, so. Next is, we have the meeting minutes of December 16th, 2019. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain. Mr. Rizzi? That's a vote. Next, we have the meeting minutes of December 17th, 2019. We have a motion.
Motion.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain, Mr. Rizzi, it's a vote. Next on the agenda is the master developer selection, discussion, and possible vote. Just with the packed room tonight, you know, we've been through this back in December. This is for board deliberation after the presentations that were done mid-December of Ridgewood Real Estate Development and Brookfield. We're gonna go through the board's thoughts, and we will turn to the public. We wanna try to keep this as narrow as possible, and we obviously want the public to speak, but everybody had an opportunity to speak during the presentations also. So we definitely gonna keep this on point about, where the board is and, what the, you know, process is moving forward. So, we're gonna go from there. So what I'd like to do tonight to start the format, and we did it all the way through, is start with discussing the Ridgewood RFP. They are doing it in order in the way they were submitted. That's how we've done the process all the way through, so we're fair and equitable with the process. So first I would start with discussing Ridgewood, obviously their RFP, the public presentation. And I'll start with the board, if I could start with Kevin, put you right on the spot, and we'll go through the board.
Well, I think in reviewing, I've had the opportunity now since the presentations to review in great detail both proposals, in particular on the Ridgewood. I thought they brought a lot of good attributes to the table in terms of the overall function. I still had some concerns, I would say. I don't think I'd want to call them questions, because I think it's been, in my opinion, something I've had the opportunity to really dive into. So from that standpoint, on an overall basis, I have those concerns as it relates to the overall ability of Ridgewood to, you know, offer something going forward that would be in-depth, that we'd be looking for from that standpoint. But those are my comments on Ridgewood.
Thank you, Kevin. Ms. Bessel?
Yeah, I don't have many comments because I'm excited to hear from, I think, the public. I've talked to a lot of residents over the past few weeks about both proposals, and I'm not going to make any comments.
Okay. Ms. McKinnon?
I too was impressed with both developers coming in and speaking with us, and appreciate all that they brought to the table. I do have some concerns about some pieces with the infrastructure questions, maybe the lack of planning or thought process for some of it. That's one of my only concerns, but like Brittany, I really wanna hear what others have to say.
Dave?
I think Ridgewood, you know, tremendously successful people, they did a great presentation. They, like Brookfield, like anyone that tried to respond to this thing, it was a difficult thing to respond to. And I asked the question actually in a public meeting, I don't really know how you put numbers to this thing, and you guys tried, and I give you a lot of credit for it. You said, you know, we have 1,200 more housing units and commercial down to 3 million square feet. And, you know, when I asked you about that, you admitted that it's kind of fuzzy math because nobody really knows what this place, nobody knows what it's gonna take to do this place. And so, I thought it's a great presentation by a qualified team, but at the end of the day, and this speaks to both Ridgewood and Brookfield, I'm gonna default to levels of experience ultimately, and I question whether Ridgewood matches up to Brookfield on that playing field, because that's the only way I can personally judge this. There's no way to put a number to this development, what we're gonna do moving forward, and those are my thoughts.
Okay.
I was impressed with the presentations from Ridgewood, the team of Patronelli, Angela Gordon, Gorig, and Pulte we've heard from on this site before. Weymouth has been playing both of these presentations constantly over the last month, and it's wonderful to have people engaged and we've been listening to them and offering comments, so it's a great way to get public comment informally to us. I respect your efforts. It's a great involvement to submit a proposal for this, and it's a very unique opportunity. So I thank you and look forward to public comment too.
Mr. Rizzi?
I look forward to public comment myself, Tom. I met with both of the developers, and I will reserve my opinion until we hear from the public.
Well, being next to last, I'm gonna echo, I don't wanna echo a lot what we've heard already. Hats off to everybody both organizations that submitted. It's, like Pat said, it is a unique project, a unique experience, and really kind of piggybacking on what Dave said, my concern, and I'll use the word concern, was that there was definitive numbers submitted as far as putting in a 200 key hotel. Retail was a set square footage, so on and so forth. Well, I understand why it was. What we've learned in the past from our past experiences here, whether it was over the last 1, 2, or 3 master developers that attempted this, is by putting in numbers, you're putting your possibly artificial thresholds and barriers right up front, and it's tough. It's a tough call, but overall, I appreciate the efforts.
So, my comments, sometimes being last is hard because some of the comments already made by the board, reflect my thoughts. But, to voice them out, I mean, I've had the opportunity to read this and spend a lot of time like the board has, and spend a lot of time on the phone trying to figure different things out, doing due diligence, following up, watching the presentations that were very in-depth, and there's a lot of content here. We have a very hard decision to make, probably one of the hardest decisions this board will ever make. There's 2 very valid applicants here. We have to, as Dave said, we have to figure out what's best for us long-term. I think what Ridgewood brings to the table with their team is there is a depth of experience with past dealings on the property, whether it goes back to L&R, or when this first started. I think there's a team here that understands that. I do have the concerns though of the long term, and I think what the SRA is poised with is making sure that we can keep this project ongoing for a long period of time. We know we have a lot of things like infrastructure and cleanup and just a variety of things, MEPA process that we have to get through, and really it's going to take a long time. And I want to make sure that we can weather that storm together with a master developer that can weather that storm. Do we see a change in the economy, and how does that affect the overall picture? We cannot go back, and not to bring up the past, but we cannot ever go back to that, and we have to keep moving forward. I think the team though with Patronelli, we've seen here before, it's really good, and I want to you know, I do wanna hear public comment also, comment from the applicants too, so, you know, give them an opportunity to talk, and then we'll go from there. So, I'll open it up to the public, what's that?
Should we do that on each candidate, or sort of
We-
go through both? or-
We could do,
No, I'd suggest we do both. of them.
okay, we'll do both, I'm sorry,
Then
yeah,
we
I'm
can
sorry.
open it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's turn our page a bit, and let's go to, Brookfield. And Kevin, again, I'll start with you again. Sorry.
Again, from my perspective, having the opportunity to look at this in great detail, I did like Brookfield's proposal. I like the fact that they are a company that's been around for a number of years. They've had operations across the world. But more importantly, from my perspective, was the local team that they are going to be dealing with us at Union Point. On the residential piece, they're gonna have the person who was instrumental in developing Pine Hills and Plymouth. And with the commercial in New England development, which has had construction experience on a number of malls in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. So I believe that they have the required commercial experience at the local level as well as the residential experience. I think, again, in my opinion, I wanted to look at a known quantity, because the problem we have here, and it's no secret, is that there's been so many starts and stops that we have to get it right this time. We cannot afford to have a hiccup. We can't afford to go with something that we don't feel comfortable with. And with that said, I feel comfortable in the Pine Hills case. I know of their experience at Pine Hills way back when I was town administrator in the town of Kingston. Plymouth is right next door, so we had a intricate knowledge of what they did and how they developed it. In terms of New England development, with their experience at the Liberty Tree Mall, I believe it's the Cambridge Galleria, if I'm not mistaken, and they've had a number of Simon malls that they've been able to construct. Again, I had, a contact when I was in Kingston with the Independence Mall, so I know finitely of what a community can go through and what the issues are relating thereto. So I feel very strongly with Brookfield's corporate backing and their financial abilities, as well as the local team that they put in place, that this will be a bonus for Union Point, and I have every confidence moving forward that they will be the entity that will be able to finally put Union Point on the map where it should have been when we started this process. And I'm sad to say I was involved in it back in 1998, and in fits and starts I've been in one position or another. So when it started and it was envisioned in 1998 to be where it is, I think I have every confidence that they will be able to get us where we should have been today.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'm gonna kinda echo the same thing and and say that I am excited to hear from the public as well, but I do wanna say that, one thing that really struck me during the Brookfield proposal and that continues to stick with me is, so it's page 43 of their proposal, and it goes through all of the very unique pieces of Union Point and all the experience that they have with those very unique pieces. To me, as I live and am a resident of Union Point, I am painfully aware every day that there's a new concept to me. Brack closure is something I've never dealt with before. A lot of these things that I've never seen. And while they're very unique to me, I trust the experience of Brookfield, that they've been through these things and know how to appropriately deal with those, so.
I was impressed with Brookfield's presentation as well. I like the fact too that they've had a lot of experience, not only with the Pine Hills, but also with dealing with unique commercial properties as well as dealing with the MBTA and commuter rails and different things that they try to bring to light into other pieces of their build-outs. And I do like the fact that they seem to have, kind of repeating what Brittany said, a good grasp on what unique, certainly not opportunities, challenges, yeah, that Southfield brings. And that they've kind of dealt with that already in a lot of respect. And it was nice to see that they've had those same challenges and how they resolved them.
Mr. Rubin?
So, I'm gonna start off with a rant, because this is my opportunity. I'm a board member and everybody has to listen, and it's on topic, but not entirely. For the members of the public who are not immersed in this development, that don't live and breathe it like we do, I just wanna remind everyone sort of how we got to this point tonight. We put out an RFP that was very difficult to respond to, because basically what it said, in so many words, when you peel back all the layers and read in between the lines, it says, you're gonna come here and build 6 to 8 million square feet of commercial space. That's the way it's zoned and legislated. The land of Oz, you're gonna build the land of Oz, and you're gonna build commercial space that there's no market for here. Everybody's told us that. The local development community, the property owners, consultants, the Chamber of Commerce, everybody has said, it's ridiculous, you can't do that. But that's what the RFP says, because that's the way we're zoned. You have to do it on land that's encumbered in debt, you have to pay for all the infrastructure, you have to pay the Navy $1 bazillion, it's encumbered by a PLA. Half of it's not developable, even though we say it is, because it's got these convoluted land restrictions. So how is any developer supposed to respond to that? I talked about Ridgewood, they tried to put a number to it, more power to them, because we asked them to, and but it's hard to do. Brookfield basically came up with no specifics. They said, we don't know, no idea, but we're a good partner, we're gonna be your partner, we're gonna work through this together in a planning process, and we're gonna solve the problems. And it was a little bit brave, because it's not exactly what we asked for, but it was very honest. And both developers were very honest. Probably the first time that any developers have come in here prior to a selection and been honest about what this place is. And so, how do you decide, given all that? You don't know what this can be. We don't know. And what you do, as I said, is you default to qualifications. And while Ridgewood is eminently qualified, more successful than I'll ever be, certainly, Brookfield, their access to capital, their depth of experience is just unmatched. They have really strong local partners, and they've identified a local development team, which, in the words of John Tewig from New England Development, they've been here, they've done that, they've done it in Massachusetts, which is huge, because this is its market in and of itself. And I firmly come down on the side of Brookfield, pending public comments, which I absolutely will listen to openly.
We've spoken to Ridgewood. I commend the makeup of the team for Ridgewood. I think Patronelli had some wonderful projects to talk about. But I was struck by what came across as a very clear, well-functioning team that Brookfield presented in their public presentation to us. And that is a tough thing to compete with. You've got proven track record of these folks working together. And I look forward to public comment.
I think that both made a good presentation. However, I do feel that Brookfield went the extra distance here, and they named all the challenges that we face at Union Point. Going back to 1998, there has been a local team up here. I think Kevin was looking at my notes, and so was David. So we don't have kind of stinks, but they do have the experience in the Cambridge Galleria Mall. I've been over there, it's a big success, all the malls they've done. I think their ability to develop commercial is there, and I think they have a great local team, and Pine Hills is a fantastic place to be. I err on the side of Brookfield myself.
Yeah, again, all the comments. But given the fluid nature, thanks. Given the fluid nature of Brookfield's presentation, coupled with the success, the obvious success of local development, especially Pine Hills, and the vision that was achieved and is still being achieved in Pine Hills has been very impressive. And that's all great and well and good, but it comes down to money, and they're very well capitalized. And that alone is it's what we need at this point.
So, as far as talking about Brookfield, you know, sometimes, you know, they have a big team, they're expanded across the country, the world. And I will say, sometimes bigger is not always better. But I also know that they brought local resources. And one of the key points of RFP were with those local resources, bringing those to the table and understanding Massachusetts development. Massachusetts is unique in so many ways. Weymouth, Rockland, and Abington are unique. And, you know, what we need is, you know, again, of the comments I had earlier, is we do need that, I feel, that capitalized group that can take this long-term, and truly, I am worried about infrastructure. If we do not finalize or get to a point with infrastructure, we do not move this much further. And I do feel that Brookfield is well-positioned to move that forward with their experience. One of the things that have stuck out with me is the Union Station, you know, project. It's in Massachusetts. It was distressed. They're making a turnaround. It was a good presentation. It was a good understanding. Scale-wise, maybe a bit smaller, but I think it brings a lot of the same values and processes forward. So, again, you know, Brookfield, again, they have, I think, a lot of good things. And I want to say about both, this is the hardest thing, sitting in front of the gentleman, the team from Ridgewood here. To make this decision, everybody put heart, blood, sweat, and tears into this, and heart and soul. It's not something to sit up here and, you know, I know it took time, it took money, energy, and, you know, that has a lot of value, and it's not something that is just being discounted. It's always thought of, and in my perspective, and going through this process. So, from here, any other comments from the board? Okay, I'll turn it over to the public. What I'd like to do is since we do have the applicants here, give them the opportunity to speak. They are here, they took the time to be here, so I'd like to give them the opportunity to speak relative to our comments, and then we will get into the public comment and go from there. So, Ridgewood, again, start with you.
I guess I'm just gonna
Just
stand over here.
name
So,
and address for the
sure.
record.
I'm Jonathan Grebo, 31 Morningside Drive in Livingston, New Jersey, for those familiar. Just like to thank you all for having us, for your comments. While I have the chance in public, I'd like to thank Mike for really busting his butt to do a great job on our RFP. Just a couple of responses to the comments. One thing about the capital, we're measuring billions of dollars. So just making that point, obviously Brookfield is a well-capitalized, but so are we, and I think that's just a little bit of a, you know, our depth, our history, our level of dollars, though it might not be the same size, also is measured with a B. A couple other things, just on the response to the RFP. You know, we put together a plan because we think that's what gets things done the fastest, and our goal and our thought was that speed is of utmost importance. Whoever you go with, my advice is do it and do it quickly, because time is an enemy in any project of this sort. You know, I think the last part is the depth of knowledge. Obviously, the Brookfield guys have a lot of local experience. You know, we thought what was important was to continue with a team that had the institutional knowledge of the problems, the issues, the MEPA, the Navy, the BRAC, all of those things that are really, I think, the first challenges that need to be answered. And we came up with a plan because I kind of thought that's what we were supposed to do. And that's why we did it. And so I very much appreciate everybody's time, effort. I know it's a hard decision, and we got to be independent from the situation a little bit, us and Brookfield, in that regard of not having truly lived the past. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Team from, anybody else from your team?
No, we're good. Thank you.
team from Brookfield? Yes. Name and address, please.
Tony Green, 288 Woburn Ave, in Massachusetts.
We covered our open meeting stuff, all right?
That's more than I get to tell most folks, actually. So, similarly, we're appreciative of having even had the opportunity to do the work, to try and understand what's been accomplished so far here at the former Naval Air Station and what might be accomplished in the future. And I think as we looked at the amount of work that it takes to make it so that zoning, NEPA, infrastructure, and all those things actually align, and to get everybody on board, we think that takes some time. And at least our experience with the NEPA process is, and I hope no one from NEPA's here, multiply by 2 and add 40, because it takes a long time. And so we're ready to sit down and do those things, and if we're so fortunate as to be chosen, we got a lot to do together to make this be the great place that it could be. And so for my teammates who really worked hard to be able to get us to the place where we feel like we had a pretty good grasp of all the issues that are out there, and the ways in which they might recombine with local input, we're looking forward to that process if we're chosen. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other of the team? That's it. Okay, so I'll move the public comment. Raise your hand, and just we'll need your name and address for the record, and I'll try to get you in order here. So, public comment. Ms. Parsons.
Mary Parsons, 754 Union Street, Rockland, Massachusetts. I was a former Rockland selectman, and I was a citizen advisory committee member for the MEPA process for the redevelopment of the former NAS South Weymouth. And for those 6.5 years, we immersed ourselves in this project in every detail, and there's very few places in Massachusetts that actually can say that. Usually a MEPA process with a project and no one shows up. We had a lot of people on this board, and you had to have expertise in certain areas. And one of the issues I have is with the Brookfield presentation, their written presentation, is they're saying that certain things don't match with the MEPA process, and that's not how the MEPA process works. The MEPA process identifies all of the environmental impacts to the project that the project causes on the surrounding areas, like water, sewer, transportation, wetlands, so on and so forth, rare species habitat, and there are certain permits that a project would have to get. Those permits are currently in place. They haven't changed because even though L-STAR put out a notice of project change, they never followed through. And the 2007 certificate's still in place. The rare species habitat permit is still in place, and they don't do a permit until after a MEPA process is finished. So it's not true that they have to match up or they should match up. They just identify the environmental impact. So that's an issue I have. And another issue I have with both is the fact that I'm afraid that they might just do housing and leave. And the issue is there was hesitation on is the master developer going to own this property? And if not, who's going to pay them? I mean, they're not going to do it out of the kindness of their heart. They're here to make a profit. And I'm not sure the town I live in wants more housing. I'm pretty sure they don't want more housing, and we have a reuse plan in place. We don't necessarily need a new one. That's my comments.
Okay. Comments? Mr. Shea?
Joseph Shea, 3 Wyman Road, Abington. Advisory Board representative from Abington. Former member of the Citizens Advisory Committee also. First, good luck and God bless you for all the effort you put into it. I mean, you have to make the best decision you can. And you've done the research. I guess I share some of Mary's concerns, especially about the need for a commercial industry. I think the most important thing, though, is I would hope, and maybe I'm misreading what happened 4 or 5 years ago when we had the law change. I think we need the board of directors to have a more active oversight and control of the developers. My personal impression was that L-Star, to some degree, L&I, to some degree, and F-Star and L-Star, basically thought they controlled the process. And I think obviously it turned into a disaster. I mean, the new started toward Rockland problem with those 25 acres show that. And I think people just need to make sure that we need to have a strong control here, and the staff to carry that out, and if necessary, changes to the law to make that happen. Because we're dependent on you, we should not be dependent on the developers. You people over there, they may have good goals, but their loyalty will not be here. So good luck, thank you.
Other comments from the public? Yes, sir. Mr. Lamont.
Yes, my name's Steve Lamont, I live at 16 Thistle Lane, so I'm a resident. I just wanted to say that, a couple things, okay? I thought both presentations were just excellent, and since I was the first resident here, okay, I can say that either one would have been better than what we ended up with L&R and whoever set that up before, in my opinion, okay? However, I did see some differences, some of which were pointed out. There's pros and cons in both places. I feel, in Ridgewood's case, I thought they had presented too much of a master plan. It was like, you've already cast it, and I just wanted to have some say, you know, can we change this? And you're not gonna just rely on the towns, you wanna have the people that live here have an impact on how this is gonna get developed, okay? So that was one thing. I would say that we have some experience with Pulte here, okay? I think, for the most part, they were fast. They were, I think, did a reasonably good job. However, you know, I wish they would have listened, okay? Two things. I wish they would have put some garages underneath the existing units, okay? And I wish they would have put curbstones, you know, granite or cement or something, okay, better. And even though some here preferred to see asphalt sidewalks, I would have preferred the cement like the rest of the place, okay? I just wish they would have listened, and I realized that we were dealing with the Pulte poorer side of construction rather than what you guys had talked about here, okay, the upgrade. Okay, that's okay. Petronelli, I thought the commercial portion was excellent. I thought they had a great chance to make things happen. I just saw too much emphasis on fastness, and I understand, time is money, and you know, you guys are formed and you're ready to go, and so switching over to Brookfield, I sort of appreciate it, okay? Their focus on getting a successful master plan, and we're starting from scratch now, okay? So that's gonna have to be bought into. Now, whether that master plan is too residentially oriented, you know, I'm for one that would like to see some commercial, you know, but I like the concept where you talked about, in case of Brookfield, the village center. Okay, I thought that resonated with me, rather than the sort of the big plan that was generated by, what was the name of the
Sasaki and, what the
architects from MIT there, I can never.
Alpes Manfredi and Sasaki.
You know, I thought it was nice to see how much you could cram in here, okay? But there were some useful things there, and unfortunately, you know, in hindsight, had we moved fast, and had we been capitalized, and had we been further along in the infrastructure, I mean, we lost a shot at getting, you know, the Red Sox farm team here, in my opinion, okay? And it's just the dream, okay? And I think that would have been a big help, okay? A lot of missed opportunities, and I realize that speed is important. On the other hand, I realize having a good plan, a sound plan, I realize trying to deal with the infrastructure problems up first, which is a very politically charged thing, okay? Which, funding has gotta come from a bunch of different resources than what I've heard before, okay? So, I mean, I just thought both presentations were good. I have a bias because I'm a little more familiar with Pine Hills, but I thought the University Station, what was done from Brookfield was amazing, okay? You guys haven't been as close as I have over the years because, I sort of moved away from here, worked for 25 years and then came back, so I've seen it before. And then the resurrected version of University Station I thought was which exemplified, some commercial entities, okay, that could be similar to what we might see here. So I know they have capability, okay, so, I think I've touched base on everything, and I know what it's like to pour your heart and soul into writing RFPs. Okay, I've done it many times in my life, but I'd give both you guys, both teams high scores. Okay, it's just who do you feel comfortable with, and I mean we're not far enough along in the process with both these people to, they need feedback, and I don't know what the plan is here. Is if you're drawing a line now to pick A or B, okay, which, it's hard to see how it's gonna, break out, I know it's a challenge, I don't know any other way of doing this, because I remember when we all scrambled around here trying to write RFPs for the, Amazon, attempt to find a location for their 50,000 people, and Eleanor was saying, project's done if we can do this. That's not how it works, okay? It works by hard work and putting A plus B plus C and trying to solve the most difficult problems up front, which have never been dealt with here by Eleanor, Starwood, L-Star, and what I saw in both presentations was far more competence, okay, and I applaud you all for that.
Thank you, Steve, and just so everybody knows in the room, Steve is a former board member here, and I got the opportunity to work with him, and I really appreciate your input, Steve, letting us know, it means a lot, so thank you. Other public comment? Mr. Longo.
Long appointed director for the town road, 75 Middle Street. So I obviously, my preference is with Brookfield because as a town planner, I like their approach to the planning process, which brings a lot of pain to the process. And I think that's something everyone needs to understand, that it's not gonna be an easy process to figure out what should go here. So according to Brookfield's presentation, they're gonna do a community planning process, which means there's gonna have to be a lot of tough love here. And I hear what you're saying, Rockland doesn't want housing, but we're all gonna have to come to agreements whatever happens here. We certainly know we wish for Dubai, and we didn't get Dubai. So if we continue putting our heads in the sand and wishing for something that's never gonna happen, then this is gonna be a failure again. But I have confidence in Brookfield that they're gonna do a public planning process. We'll listen not only to the residents, not only to the board, but to the three communities, and through some tough work, and I think they understand there's a lot of tough work on this, they're gonna come up with a plan that's gonna be acceptable. May not be liked 100% by everyone, but we're gonna have to figure this out and come to some agreement on it, else we're gonna be wishing for things that are never gonna happen here. So, Mr. Chairman, through you, I'd just like to ask one question, is, since this is somewhat of a partnership with Washington Capital, has Washington Capital come to an agreement with Brookfield, or are they still in the process of negotiating? Because my only concern is, if this board designates tonight, and they don't have Washington Capital's consent that Brookfield is their candidate, is the one that they feel that they can work with, then I'm not sure if a vote tonight is gonna be premature. Because if Washington Capital and Brookfield have not come to an agreement, and this board designates tonight, and they can't come to an agreement, where does that leave us with a designation that's not acceptable to Washington Capital? So I don't know, if not on the agenda or what, but I just urge you to, if you could share with the public where the negotiations are with Washington Capital. Are they moving along, or are they stalled, or where are we? Thanks.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
First of all, I think that that's a private agreement between whoever is selected in Washington Capital. I don't think, as a public entity, we should be entering into any collateral with whomever right now. I think it's incumbent upon this board to make a decision as it deems fitting and proper as to whom, from a public standpoint, we think is the best public, would be the master developer. Ancillary to that, once that decision is made, then there are certain business decisions that are gonna have to be made privately and independently of this board between Washington Capital and whomever we select. And I do not think, and I would not advocate, that this board involve itself in those deliberations, and I do with counsel here, I don't, perhaps you could advise.
No, I would agree. I think that impinges on an area that's none of our concern at this time. I think we pick whoever we think is best, and other things resolve themselves in their own time, and I wouldn't even speculate.
Any other public comment? Ms. Parsons?
Since people are turning around and looking at me, and I'm getting the idea that this is very personal, you need to know that the cement sidewalk needs to be fixed because it's one panel's raising up and there's no maintenance on the ceiling. That's that issue. The other issue is people need to understand that in Rockland, it's people that vote. And people that vote plan. We've already voted a plan. It's sitting right up there. There's nothing that says we're unhappy with it because there's nothing built in Rockland. There's water sewer issues on that. There's transportation issues. It's like I said, we didn't sit on this board and just, every once in a while somebody came and did something. We have document after document and got to know every square inch of this, got to know the issues with putting a sewer treatment plant on here, the wild wetlands issues, all of it. All of it. And right now, currently, we're getting all the traffic from this, and there's nothing built there. And in that certificate, the developer is the one responsible for widening Reservoir Park Drive in Hingham Street, and it hasn't happened. But that traffic is now backing up at rush hour. And I will say this, you're not the ones that are supposed to be putting in water and sewer infrastructure in that. It is supposed to be whomever develops this place, whomever owns the land, and if it has to go parcel by parcel, then so be it. But in terms of a plan, no, we have say.
Okay. Other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Maggie. I live at 200 Charter Road in the Commons.
Okay.
And the two meetings that I went to, I was impressed by Brookfield because they were going to include the board and the public in the planning part of it. As far as the Ridgewood, I felt like they were not going to do that. And that the first night I went home thinking there wasn't going to be any input from the board or the public. And Brookfield, as far as I'm concerned, they have more experience in this local area as well as worldwide. And I'd like to keep this Massachusetts flavor. And I've also been out to Pine Hills a couple times. If anybody can get out there, it's beautiful. And they've done a really great job there. I was wondering how long it took to develop what's there, as far as time-wise for that.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Joe Versace, Washington Capital. 26 Buttrick Lane, Carlisle, Mass. For those of you who care. While I understand it's not the board's concern about where we are with the commercial agreement, I do think that I would like to respond to Bob. Bob, at this time, we do not have an agreement with Brookfield. We will work, if the board so chooses, Brookfield, we will work diligently to try to reach a commercial agreement, but at this time, I cannot say that we have one.
Thank you, Joe.
Any other comments from the public? Any of them? Do we have a motion?
I actually have another comment.
Okay, all right,
Sorry.
that's fine. No, absolutely.
So actually, just even these statements that both parties made, sort of struck me. I was taking notes, and while I would love to imagine that something can happen very quickly in this area, as Jonathan had stated, I've lived in Union Point long enough to understand that this process is going to be very slow, as Tony had stated. And I'm actually more interested in doing things correctly than I am with doing them quickly. While I try my best not to speak ill of past developers, I think that previous developers have tried to move faster than they were able. And promises were made that some were rather simple, that were just never simply followed through on. And so those comments really struck me in stark contrast tonight. And you know, as I've always made clear to everyone, that my position on this board is to represent will and always be to represent the current and future residents of the neighborhood. And after hearing from countless residents, there was a clear front runner in this process. Residents could not stop telling me about their positive experiences with Brookfield throughout the nation, and how their proposal not only inspired them, but also made them feel motivated and hopeful to live in this neighborhood again. The representatives from Brookfield and their partners made no promises to any of us, while stating that their belief in the potential of this development. So the sense of collaboration that I think we've heard a lot about tonight, not only with us, the SRA, but also with the SLA, the host community agreement and neighbors, and also the neighbors, provides our community with some of the much needed hope. Brookfield stood in stark contrast to those who have come before it, making no allusions to how painful this process might be, and however they stood confidently willing and able to take this responsibility. The qualifications of the team that they put together, it speaks for themselves, and their experience on countless projects that are actually eerily similar to our development makes this choice rather simple, and I support and fully stand with the residents to make Brookfield Properties the next master developer of Union Point.
Okay, so we have a motion, is that gonna be in
Yeah,
a
sure.
formal
I'll
motion?
make a
So you-
formal
so-
motion.
So the motion is in the book, so
Okay.
it's gonna follow the motion.
Sure. Okay. I move that the Board of Directors select Brookfield Properties as the new successor master developer, and that the SRA's appointment be contingent on the negotiation and execution of an exclusive negotiation agreement for interim master planning and development services at Union Point, and a further disposition and development agreement for permanent master planning and development services. And further, that the Board of Directors hereby authorize the chair to execute a letter of intent notifying Brookfield Properties of the board's decision.
We have a motion,
Second.
second, any other discussion? Seeing here and none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll do a roll call vote on this. Kevin?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Kelly? Dave?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
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 Okay, I show the vote is unanimous to select Brookfield Properties as the next master developer, and go from there. We will be working on the letter of intent with Attorney Galvin, and get that out to the board. So, comments, post, we have a few other agenda items, but if anybody has any comments from the board. No.
Thank you to the Ridgewood team as
Thank you
well.
very much.
We have a couple agenda items we just gotta finish up, so we'll be a few minutes. Next on the agenda is the Phase 1 definitive subdivision plan performance bond settlement and release. And part of this, give it a second. All right, so, next is the, Phase 1 definitive subdivision plan performance bond settlement and release agreement. Sewer pump station, number 1, discussion statement regarding MGL 30B exemption, and then authorization for pump station cleaning. So, I would like to start with Attorney Galvin, just to talk about the performance bond. We had a settlement on that. Attorney Galvin, could you, just update us on that?
Sure, we have settled, one of 2 bond claims. And we are awaiting $175,000, which will be returned to us.
We have it.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
So we received the check today, excellent.
The check today. We have a second, that money, would be applied to the outstanding items that were on a list that was prepared by Mr.
Excuse me,
Young.
Heidi, could you just make sure
Open
that
that
door
door.
stays open? Thank you.
It is still open.
It's gotta be open all the way.
Open.
It is open all the way. Sorry, I know they're talking, but it is what
Plus
it
it's
is.
hot.
Yeah. All right, sorry.
So that was, we have 2 bond claims. The first of the bond claims has been settled. And we signed a release and we received $175,000, which is basically the balance of the bond money. And we have a second bond claim called the Beam Street bond. And the entity's name was Lexer, I think is the insurance company, but they have another name, Sompo, I think that's the name. We're in the process of exchanging background information. That bond claim is in the vicinity of $80,000.
Excellent.
I expect a similar result, but again, it's too early to tell. We had further negotiations.
And thank you to Bob. Attorney Galvin was successful in negotiating this with very little litigation. We were able to come to an agreement without having to file any court paperwork. So we were able to legitimize it and get things moving. So Bob, thank you. I appreciate it. And the team, Jim and Eric, were instrumental in getting all the facts and figures together, making sure we could justify the needs for this money to be returned. So thank you to all of you and the team.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, then I'll make a motion that the Board of Directors hereby ratifies the settlement and release agreement dated December 16, 2019, by and among the Southfield Redevelopment Authority and Westchester Fire Insurance Company for the sum of $175,000 for the completion of certain site improvements as required under the Phase 1A definitive subdivision plan as amended, and B, that the Southfield Redevelopment Authority creates a bond receipts reserved for appropriation fund of $175,000, and is hereby authorized to expend these funds for their intended purposes pursuant to the Phase 1A definitive subdivision plan performance bond, and C, the Board of Directors hereby approves spending up to $40,000 from the bond proceeds fund for the full cleaning of the wet well and storage tank at the sewer pump station number 1, hereby noting that the public safety and convenience and necessity therefore, and also exempting said transaction from Chapter 30B of the general laws.
So we have a motion, do we have a second? Okay, just a quick discussion so everybody in the public knows. We were able to do the upgrade work to the pump station, pump station over by Brookfield Village. When they did the work, they realized that it hasn't been cleaned in over 7 years, and it's in dire need of getting that cleaned. Actually, myself, Vice Chair Rubin, and Jim Young have been going out and resetting the pumps to make sure they run every day. And because we're on the dialer, we do not own that, but we have a license agreement with Elstar to be able to access the property. But it's thanks to the staff and board members to be able to keep that up and running. But hopefully we get that cleaned and we'll be able to avoid those issues. But the generator is in, the switchgear has been changed, we have a spare pump, so we're prepared, but we do need to get that cleaned. It is imperative, it is immediate, it is emergent to get that done. So we hope to have it done within the next few weeks, but that will get the process moving. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? Seeing here none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That's unanimous. Next we have treasurer update, treasurer report, Derek?
Good evening. I had sent out a copy of the end of December GL budget performance revenue and expenditure report to you, and you got a chance to look it over for a couple of weeks. I do have some recommendations on a couple of transfers that will need to be done. I'd also like to highlight a couple items on there As you'll notice, the pledged revenue and assessments, the amount of money that has come in is extremely low. That's because the billing doesn't go out until the actual bills go out in January and in April. So I just want to let you know that's why we haven't received those monies yet. Those are pending. The other items that are in here that are, would be unusual is you have FY19 district tax that came in as the fourth item down under revenue. Typically, there's a lagging payment from the prior fiscal year that comes through in the current fiscal year. That's why you see an odd percentage amount that comes across with that. The annual audit is completed, and we'll be sending out copies of those, hard copies to you, those shortly. They just were received. I did send a copy of you that in email format. In here also, we've got a transfer tonight that I'm going to be needed for the land use administrator due to an increase that was given to him after the fact that we had ratified the budget. Contributory retirement is mostly spent out because it's a prepaid expenditure at the beginning of the year. Health insurance, as you'll notice, is low on the expenditure percentage-wise because of the fact that we had funded that at full time employees for the executive director as well as 2 part-timers, and those are not currently hired positions. There's a negative balance in Medicare insurance, which needs to be transferred tonight. And the last item on this list is the Parkway Bond debt service of $200,000. We still have not received anything definitive from the state of whether or not they will be asking us to pay an amortization of the deficiency on that. And that takes me to the end of the year-to-date. Do you have any questions on that?
Questions on the finances?
I had questions, but Eric and I talked and I was satisfied with the answers.
Okay, thank you.
And
We
then there are
have,
transfers after this as well.
yep, so there's 2 transfer items. We have a motion for that.
Make a motion that the board of directors hereby transfer the amount of $7,120 into the land use administrator's salary account from the assistant land administrator's salary account to cover the negotiated contractual increase of 3% or $3,120 plus a $4,000 stipend in the absence of an executive director. And B, that the board of directors hereby transfer the amount of $5,000 into the Medicare insurance account from the health insurance account.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That's unanimous. We have no, is that all set? Are you all set?
All set, thank you very much.
We have no topics not reasonably anticipated by the chairman 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I do have public comment, but I think we probably handled most of that. No, we did not. Okay.
Just one comment. I wanted to you realize, you've got the pump station sort of set up, right?
Yeah.
However, there's still a lot ahead that needs to be done, hopefully with a master developer behind it. But my suggestion is that it's not light work, okay? I think you got because you're probably going to have to need to interface, with the state, to regulate and make sure that all the IQs and OQs and PQs, I don't know if you know what that is, but have been set up by whoever has established this, a lot of written documents, and including maintenance and cleaning and whatever other. And so I just wondered, you guys realize it's just the tip of the iceberg here.
We're very, very familiar with that right now, Steve.
Okay.
Very aware of the current infrastructure that we have and what we need to deal with.
Because in my opinion, it'd be nice if somebody could write it down on one page, what still needs to be ahead.
It would be an awful big page.
You should be able to reduce it down. But that would be one of the 25 items that needs to be passed on, through the new master developer.
That's what we're hoping.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
No, you're correct.
Yes. Well, let's look at the praying just yet, Ms. Parsons.
Yes, just 2 things. I think at one of the very first presentation back in December, one of the Weymouth people suggested having the master developer put forward a performance bond. And so in case if they fail, the money's there to continue on whatever they didn't have. And I think that's kind of a good idea. And I think the other issue is on the sewer pump station. Is there any way that you can purchase that land so that it's yours? And you don't have to go through L-Star on it?
Right now, we're trying to decide whether or not that's advantageous. We're not sure right now, Mary. It comes with a $4,000 a month electric cost, and then maintenance and upgrades, and the SRA is not positioned for that just yet. So we have to decide what's best, and again, we're putting our best foot forward to make sure it's going, because we know it could affect numerous residents. So right now, we're doing what we can and reacting right now, and hopefully we can get to a proactive stage, and we'll move from there.
And one other question, I know you got a payment to the Navy due, is that being paid?
We're currently in discussion with the Navy at this point, and once we come to some sort of a solution with them, we'll certainly come back to the full board and let everybody know.
Okay, because the original reason why you had to pay for the base is housing doesn't generate economic development, and that was from the Navy.
Spent some time with that agreement, Mary, so thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else, public comment? Seeing here none. Next meeting, we had talked about January 22nd for our next meeting. Looks like we're just gonna have a few board members not around, so our next meeting will actually be February 5th. So everybody knows, February 5th. We'll see you then. So, motion to adjourn. We have a motion, second. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you so much.